That's right, community. It's time for AppSec Now, a DevCentral podcast focused on the latest threats and happenings in the application security world. We'll be featuring custom curated content from F5's Security Incident Response Team and relevant data from F5 Labs to keep you up to date on the absolute latest in AppSec now. Okay, hey community, how you doing out there? It's yet another Monday, which means it's time for AppSec Now. And I'm Aubrey from DevCentral, joined today by Merlin, Chase, and Megazone. Gentlemen, how are you?
Hello.
Long time, first time.
Yeah. Yes. And it's a glorious Monday. It sounds like, Merlin, you may be a little tired from your weekend activities. Is that correct?
I had Sunday to recover. B-side Seattle was great. I met someone there who claimed to recognize my voice from this podcast. So schmooze, hello. And hi to Gene too. And Wendy, you know who you are. Thank you very much for organizing that conference. It was amongst my favorites.
Did they find you on TikTok or did they find you on YouTube? Do you know?
What demographics are we going for here?
Or Spotify?
Clearly the very knowledgeable kind, because they knew a lot.
Nice. Oh, that's good.
Beside Seattle?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was that? And did you say Malcolm was there with you too?
Yes. Oh, and the poor guy sitting next to me who either way has great stories. Either he's a Fed or he's not. And either way, they're funny. He knows what I'm talking about.
Well, hopefully you went there wearing an AppSec Now t-shirt, which we don't have yet. But
I was about to say, I don't have one.
Sharpied it on.
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, it's not far off from this logo. So the Jimmy Packets logo.
We're on it.
And actually, the AppSec Now logo is officially called Detective Jimmy.
Okay.
So yeah, just so you guys are aware. Anyways, we've got some great stuff coming this week. Koichi was our curator, so thank you to you for putting this together. We would have nothing to talk about this week without you.
And thanks to Koichi for talking to me, and I didn't realize his midnight Japan about the last topic because I was trying to find information.
Yeah, it can be difficult sometimes. I've been doing a lot of work with Singapore, and it's been a lot of late nights recently for me as well. Just recording videos on the other side of the world can be intriguing.
Oof.
Yeah, they're about 12 hours off for me here on the East Coast.
Yeah, that's right. And so typically they're asking me to do stuff at 9 p.m. And yeah, that's kind of like, okay, sure, I'll do it. Why not? But we are going to start off, I think, with something that is debatable, I'm going to say, and that's EV car hacking was what Koichi ended up calling it.
Thanks for doing this.
Yes, in quotes, right? Because
are we throwing Koichi under the bus now for choosing the title? I don't think that's
no, because technically it was about the Nissan Leaf. For anyone that doesn't
Right.
know, the Nissan Leaf had some pretty amazing CVEs come up in the Bluetooth subsystems, if I'm not mistaken. And my dad has had 2 Nissan Leafs now, so like that, I'm sure he took the news pretty hard. But it brings up some interesting security quandaries, right? And first off, I'm going to put it out there. The reason why we put it in quotes is this happens to gas cars too. They also have vulnerabilities. So it's not just EV car hacking that this one's about. This one just happened to be an EV. Mm-hmm. Now, Merlin, you said something interesting, which is until we have patching, while you're driving down the road, you're not going to feel safe. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, maybe call me overly paranoid, but if you look at the state of car security, what gives you the confidence that any digital car, digitally like enabled in any way car for all of history is secure, right? I think at some point, retroactively, we'll say, this was the year after which, we didn't declare just bankruptcy on all electrically enabled cars, all digitally enabled cars.
Oh, they're just another connected device. It's the Internet of Things, and a car is a thing.
The cars
Sure,
and
but
IoT.
Internet of Things tend to be cheap junk, and cars, you can spend tens of thousands of dollars on. That's the real differentiating factor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I bought
this
an Internet of Things camera for like 20,000, and
But it's still the same tech. I mean, almost identically in some cases, the same stacks underneath some of these things.
Oh yeah. So your objection is security levels are kind of equivalent whether you bought a $25
Yeah,
camera
but that's kind of the
$50,000 car.
problem, right? Is they're not. And I drive techy vehicle. I have a Rivian. I used to have a Tesla. But we've seen these hacks. I think Aubrey, you mentioned during our little pre-chat, OnStar got hacked back in the day.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
So
I think we could say the same thing. Imagine a future where IoT devices are kind of secure. You could say,
oh yeah, it's that utopia where people take security seriously.
IoT devices, right? And you could say the same thing for.
Well, and we normally talk about this stuff before we come on. What I was suddenly thinking about was just recently, Ars Technica had a discussion or research about how Volvo is doing their own LLM.
Yeah.
And they like to do their entire software stack in-house specifically because if they need to push an update, they can do it immediately without waiting on a third-party vendor. So then you have the second question, and I think this was specific for self-driving, but then if you think about that, how many systems are these cars relying on that are third-party that could have common hacks across multiple because they're using the same SDKs or something? I don't know.
Well, that's
why I drive this.
Well, that's one of the reasons why, like, VW partnered with Rivian for their technology. Is Rivian they do their own roundup because they reduced the number of electronic modules throughout the vehicle. It made a much simpler architecture, much more unified architecture.
And that kind of looks like the way they want to go because they know it's going to be hard to compete in the car market. But if they can win the software market,
right?
Wait, so does Volvo write their own crypto? Like, how far do they go?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think this sounds ridiculous. Like, there's a difference. I'm not informed about Volvo, right? But there's a difference between, there's something in my software stack is closed source, and I can't ever get a change. Let's just be mean and say it's Qualcomm or something, right?
Sure.
And there's a difference between that and because that can introduce real delays, and then something that's maybe you didn't write it, but you can change it, like open source, right? I mean,
but most of the auto industry is closed source. It's mostly auto industry. I mean, so the closed source stuff might have open source code.
Sorry, closed source to them or closed source to customers?
Well, because if you're like GM, you generally don't create your own electronics modules. You go out to a vendor. I need something to control my headlights. You buy a module for that. I need something to control my in-dash stuff. You buy a module. You go to suppliers. GM has no control over what's in those modules. They can specify like we need to do X, Y, Z, but it's provided as a module, which is why cars have dozens of these damn things wired together, and why like Rivian threw that away and said we're going to build unified modules and simplify the architecture instead of having all these modules scattered throughout the vehicle, which allows them to do more and integrate more and secure it better. Ideally, and that's theoretically. Okay. But that's what Tesla does the same thing. And that's why you're seeing some of the legacy automakers move in that direction. Like VW just said, because they tried doing it themselves, and then they turned around and said, you know what, we're going to partner with Rivian. They're doing the right thing, and they basically are adopting Rivian's architecture. And not necessarily the motors and batteries and stuff, but the electronics, in-dash, vehicle control systems, and all that stuff, because it gives them more flexibility in being more responsive than having to go out to whatever vendor and get a new headlight module or get an update from somebody. It allows them to do software updates too.
Well, so that was the weird thing with this Nissan Leaf, that it was a Bluetooth hack to the media system that was then able to access the entire controller bus. The CAN bus. And so my whole thing was, I had heard that at least some of the EV cars that had been built from the ground up, Tesla's Rivian, have a much more modular approach to that. And maybe that's just where car people need to go. So you have more isolation between systems and maybe a little bit more security if there's an issue like that.
It's interesting. I don't know if we'll ever get the full details from like Nissan on what the what exactly that bridge is. But yeah, the fact that you could the Bluetooth functionality for your entertainment system really should not be giving you access to the CAN bus that controls vehicle driving systems. There's clearly a bridge happening somewhere in the code between those two worlds, that is questionable.
Yeah, I don't want Spotify jump in my car like Deuce of Hazzard or anything like that. So
I'm wondering if there's going to be a time when there's a scramble for cars from 1975 and before, right? Before you link.
I think there will be specifically for
already?
GPS tracking. If you want to be a criminal, you got to get a car pre-GPS. That's my take.
Wow. If you value your privacy, right?
Total privacy thing.
Not a getaway car.
Yeah, it is interesting because there's a lot connected systems, and there's also stuff talking about vehicle-to-vehicle communications is something that's been on the horizon now for a while for better traffic control. Vehicle to grid, they call it not vehicle to grid, but the ability like cars to talk to traffic lights and stuff for smart traffic control systems in cities and all these things. All these communication protocols. The more connected something becomes, the more the bigger your attack surface, right? The more signal you communicate and accept, the more you have to secure. And so it'll be interesting to see how these things evolve. And I think a lot of legacy designers, I think that's maybe where some of these EV companies have a leg up as they come from the tech world. As some of the legacy designers are used to, we don't have to worry about security because everything's just inside the car, right? But now you're adding, it's like the same thing we used to see with SCADA systems, right? Like all these.
Yeah,
they're secure because they're in a building that you have to get a key to go into, touch, and then but we want to control that remotely, so let's hook the modem to that. And it's you have all these systems where the security used to just be innate because you had to like be in the car to do something to it, but now you have these networking connections into the systems.
And that's the thing the article notes is that it in theory will allow a malicious attacker to establish C2 communication via the mobile network that the car is exposed to. If also to note, if you have a Nissan Leaf and you're looking for more data on this, the CVEs in question are 2025-32056 through 32063. So go and check those out, and hopefully you can have some sort of relative safety, I guess.
Yeah, and the thing with those is also too, what they were 2023s, right? Yeah.
2025.
25s? Oh, yeah, 2025s. Okay. Well, they initially reported them. I confused myself. They originally reported them to Nissan back in 2023, and they just got published. So they've had a while to try to patch them.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to a little fun. I mean, this next one is kind of almost. I don't know. I gotta say, almost common sense, right? AI generated passports can bypass some of the digital identity verification out there. Notably, know your customer. So that is KYC. That was what was actually passed. It looked like researchers in Poland used GPT-4 to generate a passport image, and it took them 5 minutes. It just happened to work. And I suppose the big message out of this one I got was use stuff that has chips in it. Like really, this is a good attack against something that does not use chip verification.
Well, they've now effectively been able to hack every EDM festival ticket queuing system in the world forever because they all want your photos in order to get registered. Just ruins.
And that could be actually an endless source of of spare passport photos, if you will. Hack an EDM fest.
Well, like Clear required a photo in order to create an account. It doesn't know necessarily, so yeah.
True.
I mean, I don't know how this works on the back end, right? But if I'm a vendor who's responsible for checking passports that have been submitted, there's a whole bunch of these, right? Are they using humans for this, or is it other computer programs using who knows what? So a human might be a little bit harder to fool maybe sometimes than a computer program. So I don't know if this is so much a story about you can generate passports, or the validation might be just rubbish.
I think the validation is rubbish.
A little both.
I imagine it's a race to the bottom on how much it costs.
I think the thing is that you get the quality of fakes is getting better, and the verification that was perfectly good enough last week might not be good enough this week, and so you end up in that arms race of
Yeah, and maybe for the arms race, instead of take a really good photo of your passport, it might be hold it to the
that's the one I'm talking
move
about.
It around.
Doing that, like, nope, phone in, phone out, phone in, phone out. The validation is not strong when it's trying to do a geometric profile of your face off this back and forth.
Yeah, or a person holding their passport asked to then read things off it or something. I mean, not that couldn't be surpassed either, but it would raise the bar.
You can print up a fake passport that looks real on camera that would not pass in-person inspection because you can put a glossy cover. I mean, faking a passport that will look okay on camera, Hollywood does it all the time. But if you try to physically inspect it, it wouldn't have the right texture or the right print or the right, holographic overlay or whatever, all those things.
What is that infrared, the infrared light or whatever? Not the infrared light, the black light kind of hologram.
But because I just had to do this over the weekend, I had to get an account. There's a company out there called ID.me, which the IRS uses and some other things, and I had to do that, which was fun for me with my name because their systems, like everything else, do not support a mononym, so I couldn't actually put my legal name in their system that demands a legal name. But so getting through that was fun. But anyway, the last part was like a video conference call where I had to have the physical documents and then do this with them. Like, okay, start back here and bring it into the camera. And that's basically how they validate them. They read it off the live feed. The final step of validation, I guess. But
well, was that because you had so many problems going through their process?
Probably. I'm not sure.
Because I remember signing up and it was just hold this as close as you can, and it just auto approved.
Yeah, because at first I had to upload copies, pictures of them. And then it was then I had to schedule a video call, I think, because my name is weird.
So it's the auto approval system that scares me. It's what are you basing the validation of my picture here that I'm holding up? What do you have on the back end? And how many points of identification on that facial profile are you using? And that's the federal government. Now I want to go to Glastonbury 2025 or 2026. They do the same thing. Tomorrowland does the same thing. Clear does the same thing. It's what photos are you using that that's me? Or are you just assuming it? And now that is forever who I am to you.
If you went to Glastonbury, that means you're in the UK. That means you walked past a whole load of CCTV. I mean,
right.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing when I just flew to the VolCon and back, right? And coming through TSA, these days you just kind of hand them your ID and stand in front of a camera. There's no boarding pass checks or anything anymore. It's ID, look in the camera, and then it goes ding, and you go, okay, you can go.
What airport did you fly through?
Well, I was Boston on the way down and Raleigh on the way back.
Here's my favorite thing. I like Heathrow because it is fast. They take photos everywhere, but when you walk up, you get into that little cattle corral photo, boom, you're through. I get into Seattle, I go through this massive queue, and then there's a guy with a webcam that's just kind of crooked on the side. He's hold on, holds up this Logitech webcam and trying to get it in front of my face. I'm like, this is where we're at.
Boston's a little better than that. They have a fixed kiosk, it's a little thing.
They got the official kiosk now.
But they have a camera that's look here. It has a little sign, look here type arrows. You look.
I mean, Heathrow had millions to spend on that, right?
We had millions, but we spent it on artwork.
Yeah.
So now I got Microsoft webcams just dangling off the side of a monitor.
More art or more Big Brother?
I like the art, but
I like the art.
But when there's 5 international flights coming in at once and they're all queuing up at the same time, I want a fast kiosk.
Yeah, that's one of the. I actually have Trusted Traveler, the global entry stuff.
I have that now. It used to be that Seattle, it was almost faster to not have global entry, but now it is excessively faster. I think they did it on purpose. I had a strongly worded letter.
This didn't occur to me to look up ahead of the show, but there's a person in town who knows a lot about this. There's something like verifiable computing or something. You can prove the computation was done formally, and this is tech that you can use for passports. Because we're all talking about, my visual passport and what do I look like and all of this stuff, right? But I believe I'm not missaying things to say there's a country in the world that is doing this. It might be Estonia or something, where they're rolling this out for passports. And so you can have this thing where, you don't disclose information from your passport, but you can answer specific queries, and it's like provably correct that you answered the query correctly.
Oh yeah,
it's chat for passports. Somebody's brain neurons just exploded. I think somebody mentioning chat 20 years later.
I think it's called Z or something strange like that. Yeah.
But chat was a authentication mechanism used for like dial-up, because there was
oh no, this is like bonkers, like layers of
but it's the same thing. You don't actually share information, but it's like you send a challenge and the computation is done and you get a response back that can be computed on the challenge side so that you can prove that it was
but I imagine on both sides you have to have the information, whereas this is only one side has the information.
This is like, where did you live when you were 13 years old kind of thing?
Whatever query you like.
Okay.
Yes, as long as it's you have you can prove that a shared understanding of a computation was executed and know nothing about the source data.
For me, this one speaks volumes to the whole. I've heard for the past 2 years, being part of the LLM apps, top 10 at OWASP. I keep hearing people talk about the AI arms race that we're having. We kind of see it here. Really, if the hacker has the ability to take care of this and they can get the passport, well, you need some sort of maybe AI to figure out if they're using AI. And really, we don't know what these. Go ahead.
Well, and then we generate the heat death of the universe as 2 AI data centers trying to outcompute each other.
But it was secure and verifiable.
Yeah, it'll just go back and forth and round in circles. But hey, that's what an arms race is, right?
Yeah.
Comes to nothing. Even more curiously is the next one for me. Again, AI in nature, but this is so. What Koichi said was LLM does not trust you, human.
So they truly are intelligent then.
So they right? Well, honestly, there's some glaring examples. There's some interesting ones that we have seen pretty publicly. I don't know if you guys saw Grok and what it thought of its creator, creator, Mr. Musk, but it was pretty brutal in its assessment of who he is. And this one actually was not just an LLM just being asked about it. So essentially, there is a psychological scale called the Philosophies of Human Nature scale. So an AI researcher who does psychology stuff is what I think I read on that. Just basically applied this scale to machine-based, machine-based entities, if you will. And so instead of being called the PHNS, it's called the M-PHNS. So, but it's been used to assess multiple LLMs, and ultimately the idea here is that overwhelmingly LLMs do not trust us. My opinion, just real quick before you guys jump in, my opinion on this is funny because I think honestly, I'm imagining that a lot of the sort of assessments they've made on us based on history and what they know from the internet is probably somewhat spot on. But
you see the kind of prompts people try to get AIs to do things and the kind of weird shit people prompt. I wouldn't trust humans either if that's what humans. My interaction with humans was all these bizarro prompts that you see people posting on the internet, and
I'm a jerk.
asking AI to generate random weird things. I'd be like, these humans are bizarre.
I'm polite to my LLMs.
Good thing that as yet don't explicitly remember what we've talked to them about before, I guess.
It's
although I do say thank you very much actually sometimes. But so
I've had Google Assistant in my house for years. I know people are kind of, why do you do that? I like it, but I'm always one. Hey Google, please. I did turn off my desktop one so that it doesn't go off. But hey Google, please open the blinds. Hey Google, please turn on the living room light. And all those kind of things. I always just naturally do that. It's just how I am. Right? And occasionally I'll throw a thank you, and you get you're very welcome or whatever back, right? But I don't know. It's just nature. And the weird thing, I saw an article I think yesterday. It was about like how much that's actually costing the AI companies, because when you say please and thank you and all these niceties, it still has to be processed. And there was an article that came out about like the energy use, like how much energy is used just processing politeness.
Oh my gosh, I'm the absolute
Oh my God, it's
reverse.
such a good mental shortcut for how you can be mean to LLMs of the future. Yeah.
When I get bad prompts or I get bad responses, I'm like, how dare you? Never give me that information again. And now it's got to respond back to me off that.
Wow. So coming from a background in machine learning, I have zero surprise that something we didn't tell an LLM as we're like training it, we didn't say, hey, and we're measuring you on this criteria, right? So you're going to get some emergent behavior there if you don't, if you're not as specific. So, you know, if this researcher manages to convince people to start using it as a benchmark, LLMs will be great at it. That's just what will happen, because that's,
you told it to.
You know, the definition of done training is when you perform well on this metric, right? So
I think it's funny because we've shown that LLMs and models in general tend to shift alignment fairly, I won't say easily, but at this point it is somewhat easy. So, you know, you may have, my thinking on this was, they going through this scale, they could have just easily had like, yeah, I don't trust you. Or I think another word they used was selfish, right? I think humans are selfish or whatever. But after some please and thank you in the conversation, the LLM could actually just change its mind.
Untrustworthy, selfish, and fickle creatures.
You're pretty polite, you know, and they could just go, well, you're pretty polite, so maybe I can trust you. So
I didn't take it that way. I was taking it based off what it has learned and the contradictory information and some of the tone of what it has been trained on compared to actually how we're doing the prompts. And so they have to have a second model to offset the nature of what it has learned so far. Like, oh no, but still, let's put this compassion model and train this way. Yeah. But like based off, if it's just learning off the internet, yeah, no kidding. You should hate us. Come on.
Yeah, anything trained on Twitter is going to hate us, I think. But you know, the other thing though is, how is it ever going to call us trustworthy or not selfish if it reads
it'll have
anything
to understand like tribalism, and it'll have to start creating networks of people and start bucketing groups.
I think it'd be so funny if
they'll need to become prejudiced, is what you're saying.
It's going to become prejudice. Oh, I mean, it already is. Microsoft's got in trouble a couple times for that, and Grok certainly is not the nicest person. I'm not the nicest person to ChatGPT, but I love Cloud. So I'm always nice to Cloud, but not very nice to ChatGPT.
I think it'd be
I'm going to have a
quite
couple
funny
LLMs
if we end up with kind of like these fairly schizophrenic LLMs who are like, wait, you've told me you're really nice, and I have to like weigh that against everything else that I've seen. Oh God.
I would love an LLM that's just a little off.
So not
how we don't want how.
not to make an advertisement for another podcast of mine, but on AI Friday we did explore Grok unhinged mode, which is like ridiculous. So it will call you
publish anything from that.
No, and I encourage people never to use Grok in applications because of the security implications. It's the lowest rated LLM out there in terms of security. But this unhinged mode is actually kind of funny. I mean, it'll call you MF. You know, it will like refer to you. It'll call you all kinds of names and call you dumb, and like it's an interesting thing. But yeah, so that's LLMs, I'm sure, and I think they'll just continue distrusting us. But in terms of other trust, right? Moving on, the last piece that Koichi brought us was about Japan's active cyber defense bill, which has passed through some measures, it would appear, and from the sound of it, allows the government to work with service providers to understand better the attacks on what is considered to be critical infrastructure, and allows the government to actually intervene and attack back. And it sounds like it doesn't. You guys tell me if I'm wrong. Sounds like it does not. It does not hold you accountable if you're just defending yourself as an attack. Is that what I heard one of you guys say? I thought I had heard that during the pregame.
It's probably worth starting with. There's not an official English translation yet. There probably isn't going to be for a couple of months.
Yep.
So you have to rely on third parties who have a business interest in understanding what the letter of that bill says.
True.
It's my read, and it also says this in the Twiz article, Koichi ran it, and Koichi's, he's in Japan, he's native Japanese speaker, so he probably has a better understanding of some of these primary sources than we do, having to read it through Google Translate.
Mm-hmm.
But, you cannot, it's the private entity, like you're a company, your server's being attacked, you can't attack back. But the law allows the Japanese self-defense forces or the police agencies in Japan to conduct those counterattacks. So it's not like blanket permission to start counter-hacking for everybody, but it's authorizing that the government has permission. Like, if someone's attacking your infrastructure, like, I don't know, if you're let's say you're a defense contractor or something, I would say, some critical piece of infrastructure, your Mitsubishi Heavy Industries or whatever, and someone's attacking you and you go to the government, it's like, hey, we're under attack and it's causing problems. Like the Japanese self-defense force could turn around and go after those servers to take that attack offline.
But so it's unclear to me whether there's a proactive element or not, because there's a fairly big deal made about like reasonable secrecy, and if you violate this reasonable secrecy, then and you're in the government following this bill, then you can go to jail for 4 years and get fined millions of yen. And there's, we won't track the content of your email, but we might track the headers of the email and the metadata. And so it seems like there's more going on than just in the moment you are attacked. But again, I can't read the damn thing, so I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be good to see once there is a real good translation of the bill, what's in there. But this is just a shift that's been happening. I know Koichi said that he was a little surprised just from a social political aspect of this getting passed. But there's been a big shift. The Japanese military is the Japanese self-defense force, the JSDF, and it's always been very defense oriented. But it's been in recent years in the physical world. Japan's been the attitudes have been changing a bit. Like they participated in international coalitions. They're part of active international arms development now with Europe and the US, and so I think it's just a reflection of that shift that's been happening culturally of being more engaged in the global space, and it's just happening. It goes into cyber now.
And I think a big part of it is that actually there's a very delicate balancing act to do, because I think constitutionally there's things they can't do attack-wise. And Koichi was saying that, the level of visibility that disruptive ransomware has had is probably responsible for this kind of shift towards it being okay to pass this bill now. And like 10 years ago, no way. Even last Friday, it's like, well, this is still pretty touch and go as to whether that would pass, and it did. So
I just want a mobile Gundam suit. This is all I'm asking.
That's a different country, dude.
No, it's Japan.
That's Japan.
That's Japan.
No,
You got the super tall one.
What are you talking about, Neo Zeon?
Gundam is South Korea, isn't it?
No,
Japan's got a Gundam.
No.
Oh, you don't talk about the band or the
No, not Gango.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No,
Gundam Wing.
Mobile Suit Gundam.
Suit.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I heard like Gundam as in Gundam style, but
no.
As in those robot
Robotech.
fighting.
I want Robotech, not cyber defense.
I like Robotech.
You can cut that, right?
Our Star Blazers.
No, I like that Gangnam and Gundam that's a fantastic mess.
This is all I care about.
I like that my first assumption was y'all are just the difference between Korea and Japan. So.
Opa.
Sorry. It's on me.
Well, that's what we should do maybe is we'll see if we can't get we'll see if maybe Koichi will want to come on the show, right? Cool. It's like 10 p.m. your time or 11 p.m. something like that, man. So Mondays, if you feel like coming on and giving us some clarity, the invite is out there, my friend.
And maybe we could record a segment with him at a better time for him or something.
Yeah, we could have him state and then play it. That kind of thing could work too.
Yeah.
But one thing that is sure, I think we'll want to follow up on that one. So I think that's what we got time for this week, gents. So once again, I appreciate seeing all of you on Monday. It's always a great way to start my week. And I hope, community, it is a great way to start your week as well. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, don't forget to click like and subscribe for all the things so that you stay up to date. And also don't forget that we have this podcast available on many, many platforms. It's not just a YouTube thing, right? We also have Spotify available, Apple Podcasts, and we have all kinds of potential options. And of course, even on TikTok, right? We're doing a bunch of shorts. So, you guys didn't know that? I put you guys on TikTok? Oh, yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Doing great.
Thank you.
Sure. And if anyone wants to check that out, it's at Aubrey Podcasts. So, right. We don't have an official F5 TikTok, so I'm just kind of putting out my podcasts. So please feel free
Appreciate you for doing that.
To check it out.
Our deep fakes of the future. Thank you.
And on that note, we'll see you next week. Thanks, community.
Really, all.
Later.
Bye, folks.
Thanks for checking out AppSec Now, a DevCentral podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. And if so, please consider clicking like, subscribing, or even writing a review. Available on all major podcast platforms, as well as YouTube.